All right, thanks everybody for joining. We really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to listen to our webinar today. And today what we want to talk about is disaster recovery. And historically, it has a bad reputation because it's either costly, it's expensive, or it's a pain to implement and maintain. The thing that a lot of people don't realize is it's one of the most important investments that a company can make, because what would happen if you didn't have it? I mean, if a disaster struck your business or struck your corporate server environment, if you didn't have disaster, what would you do? In today's modern data center world, there's ways that we can help bring those costs down by using things like disaster recovery as a service, where we come in and help you either take over that process for you or help manage the process. So we can kind of go anywhere from a fully managed product all the way down to just giving you the kingdom so that you can do your own replication for yourself. And by doing so, and by using some of the technologies that we're going to introduce on this call, we can do this better, faster, and more cost effectively than a lot of the traditional site-to-site replication type plans used to do. So no longer do you have to manage your own equipment and buy a second site and do those things. By using these tools of Veeam, Nimble, and Vazata, we can help bring the cost down and make your DR plan something that's successful for you and your company. Sounds too good to be true, right? Not anymore.
But before we go into all that, just a real quick history on who Vazata is. We're a company, we've been in business for about 17 years, and our main focus on customers is going to be federal government, enterprise class like banks, and highly secure HIPAA and PCI compliant customers. But we also go into that mid-market and lower level that just have a startup. They need a couple of images because we've got a cloud platform. And we have 4 data centers throughout the U.S., 3 of them in the Carrollton, Texas area, and then we also have 1 in Northern Virginia. So that allows us to do geographically diverse deployments for those customers that need it. And like I said, because we have a lot of compliance capabilities, we're a perfect fit for healthcare, for banking, for retail. This slide here just goes to some of the products that we're able to offer. Obviously, I'm not going to bore you and go through every one of them, but our goal here today is to show you how Vazata can make DR easier for you. One of the things that we did several years ago, we brought in Veeam about 5 to 6 years ago because we were having a problem getting our backups completed. And I'm sure most of you have probably experienced that at one point or another. So throughout the years, we've helped Veeam grow, and they've helped us grow because they took probably a 50 to 60% nightly backup success rate all the way up to a 98 to 99% nightly success rate. That's how confident and how well the product works. And to be honest, most of the time something doesn't work, it's normally because of a change somebody made and didn't tell the backup administrators. That's a pretty good problem to have. But on top of that, like I told you earlier, we have several cloud platforms, 1 in Dallas and 1 in Northern Virginia. So it allows us for those customers that reside in one data center that we can automatically replicate their data to our other data center using Veeam, which allows for very quick recovery times and gives you that geographical redundancy for the 3-2-1 theory we'll discuss later for your backups. We can do hybrid solutions because we also have co-location. You can have physical servers tied into virtual servers on the Vazata vStructure platform. And then with that, we can also add in your disaster recovery. So a very robust and easy system to use. So why is it important for your enterprise? We want to help you overcome the problems that most people face whenever they're trying to come up with a DR solution. So, I told you why we brought in Veeam. We kind of went through that same process when we looked at Nimble. We were on some of your more standard storage platforms, your NetApps and your 3PARs of the world, but we needed something that was more adaptable, had some flash in it, helped us reduce cost, and just flat out works. And that's what Nimble brought to the table for us. And then the trifecta was whenever Veeam and Nimble integrated together, which made our life easier because we brought all of those into one place, we'll discuss later how it helps us to cost effectively automatically and more quickly complete our backups and DR solutions. And all we want to do is we want to have an opportunity to help show you how that, whether it's a physical environment or a virtual environment, between using Nimble and Veeam and Vazata, that we can help design a DCDR plan that's right for your business. You'll have off-site protection and data protection, even local data protection as well as off-site data protection. We can do image-based replication, so that gives you a very low RTO. And since we do have multiple data centers, we can do it throughout the nation at geographically different areas. And basically, we call this our vRestore product. And so we want to help you control your cost, because we can do a fixed monthly predictable cost for you. All of our data centers are Tier 3 with many Tier 4 attributes, so we meet all the CISMA certifications, HIP certification, or I should say compliances, and PCI compliances. So if you have any of those needs, we can definitely offer those to you. And even our vStructure, our cloud platform, is compliant to those as well. One of the things that we have completed as a company, if you're familiar, we have completed our FedRAMP certification for our cloud platform. Commercial customers, it doesn't mean a lot, but what it does mean is that our platform, our company, our processes, procedures, that we can actually house federal government data in our environment. And, you know, we can design and customize a solution that fits your needs. And the beauty of all this, and I'll turn it over to Veeam here in just a second, is that because we have these multiple areas, using Veeam and using Nimble as the backend storage with that, we can offer a very easy, cost-effective way using Veeam's Cloud Connect product so that you can help design a DR plan for you. And with that, I will turn it over to Israel, and he will go through Veeam real quickly and kind of tell you some of the benefits and features of it. Israel, all yours.
And thank you everyone for your patience on that as well, and for joining the webinar. So yeah, let's kind of take it back and take a quick journey into the evolution of data protection, where it was and where it's at today. So in the past, recovery times and recovery points really wasn't a big need for most organizations. Recovering in a couple of days or a couple of weeks was actually pretty fine with most decision makers. And the reason because of that is, you know, we really weren't in this modern data center kind of realm where users and customers or anybody that kind of depends on another organization didn't have the recovery time or recovery point objective that's needed today. And the reason being is everything is on a kind of on a 24/7 basis when you think of it, right? Banking or even gaming, everything on an online platform needs to be available at any given time throughout the day. And because of that, we kind of developed a solution that plays that role, that kind of fills in that availability gap, if you will. So that's kind of, you know, where we were and you know, where we're at today. Can we take someone take it a slide back here? Thank you. So let's talk about how we integrate with Vazata, and this is actually something that's not really new to Vazata. They've been doing this for some time. And they're also very well versed in the Veeam gospel. But a couple years ago, Veeam developed this Cloud Connect option where we offer an easy way to get your data off-site. And this is really to make sure that you have multiple copies of your data. And the way we've developed this is basically an easy way to authenticate yourself over a gateway server that's on a public IP. So you just need the DNS name, and you can pretty much type in your credentials, and it'll automatically populate the resources that you want to leverage for your cloud environment. So again, Vazata's been doing this for some time. Originally, they were using VPNs, and now it's kind of become the expert in Cloud Connect. And then Cloud Connect doesn't just do offsite copies of your backups, but it also offers a replication high availability offering where you can have warm standby VMs that you can easily power on in the event you had some kind of disaster. And disasters do happen. And there are a lot of use cases out there and testimonials that we can already talk about today that Vazata has already kind of filled in for us. So when we talk about getting your data off-site, that really kind of falls into what we call the 3-2-1 rule. And that's 3 copies of your data, 2 being different media types, and 1 being off-site. And this is a great way to really kind of make sure that you're countering any type of issues, whether it be a denial of service attack or even a ransomware attack. This is really kind of the only way, or the industry standard today, that's really going to kind of help you make sure that you're highly available from a disaster recovery perspective. So Veeam is a 2-in-1 solution if you're not familiar with it. If you're new to the solution, we're creating backups and copies of those backups, sending them off-site, and we're also creating replication jobs. And when we talk about replication jobs, they're not really what you would think backups are. When we look at replication jobs, replication is a 1-to-1 copy of your VM running in another data center that you can easily fail over to in the event you had some kind of disaster. Now, when we look at this from a Cloud Connect perspective, what we have is a gateway server that we've co-engineered with Vazata. And this gateway server allows you to easily connect over the internet, and you can now start sending copies of your data and create hardware plans for your replicas. So these are the resources that you're going to need to run workloads in Vazata's data center. So here we have our replicas. We have them on warm standby, right? They're copies of the machines running in your production environment, and they're near asynchronous, so we make sure that when you fail over, it's at the most nearest point in time. And in addition to that, we can also leverage a caching system that will allow us to eliminate the majority of that data footprint from going across your wide area network. And the caching system populates blocks that have been frequently sent, and we leverage those to make sure that we're eliminating those from future incremental jobs. Now, with the replication job, when you run it natively without using something like Vazata, if you want to own the project, you can also do so as well. When you look at a native replication job, and what I mean by native is when you're using your own hardware, right? You kind of go in and foot the capital expense and purchase this hardware. You would have a VPN tunnel from site A to site B, aka your DR site. And we would run the same methodology here where we would leverage change block tracking initially to send over a copy of your VM, and at the same time just send over the deltas by leveraging change block tracking. The caching system we talked about too that Vazata is currently offering is also something that you can leverage in your own replication project. So that's something that you can do as well. And when we look at these replication jobs, you can also not just send over copies of your VM copies, but you can also send over backup copies. Now, when you do this job, you can also leverage replica seeding, where in this particular scenario, what we're doing is creating a backup on portable storage, and then we're shipping it out to the DR site. And when we ship it out to that DR site, what we're going to do is then create the replica from that backup. So we'll hydrate the data. We'll then see the replica populate in our VMware inventory. All right, we have our replicas, and then from that point on, we're just going to send over the changes, which again eliminates a lot of data from going across your wide area network. We can also replicate from a backup file. So even if the backup file is created in the production environment, we can create a replica from that. And the benefit here is that you're not actually taxing the production environment. It's really just looking at the existing data that's already on the repository, which is static. So it's not leveraging a snapshot or anything on the local area network. So let's do a quick recap and kind of understand and wrap our heads around the solution that we're offering here with Vazata. So again, we have a public gateway here, and all you need is the DNS name to that. And then once you populate that in your backup and replication software, and that's another big benefit, right? And we really didn't kind of hone in on this, but there's one pane of glass to manage everything. In addition to that, if you don't want to really invest your time in doing this, obviously everybody's busy. You probably have your hands full with managing your production environment already. As a result, Vazata can actually take on this project from the ground up, from A to Z. They can come on site, do a scope of work, create the design, and implement it for you as well, and manage it to make sure you understand what's going on. So from a managed service perspective, they're also subject matter experts in that arena. However, if you want to do this on your own, you can also use them simply for the offsite target for your replicas or even your offsite copies. When you do that, again, all you need is a DNS name to that gateway server. And we authenticate through an SSL certificate. We can leverage WAN acceleration. And you now have a DR environment that you can leverage in the event you have a disaster, that you can fail over to and you can fail back to, more importantly, because it's not always going to be something significant like a storm or a flood. It could just be a power outage. And for those scenarios, you're also covered in this particular design where you can fail over, fail back, and bring back any changes in the event you needed to. So it's not always going to be a disaster. It's also going to be maybe just a virtual machine that went corrupt or something that requires the recovery of a backup. So what we've done with instant VM recovery is in the event you have a virtual server that's offline and users can't connect into that, you're now experiencing a rift in business continuity. Veeam can immediately take that compressed and dedupe backup file that's living on backup storage and mount it up via NFS. So this NFS mount brings the server back online in as little as 2 minutes, which is amazing, right? Because you're not really experiencing any downtime, pretty much making you the hero in this particular situation. Now, what we're doing is we're basically using the backup storage as a spare tire, and you don't want to keep that running forever in that particular setup, but you at least have the data available. Now, all the Delta files are saved in the backup server, and we're going to then migrate the backup file plus those changes back to the production site once work hours permit. Now, that's a great segue when we talk about instant VM recovery into our verified protection. So earlier, you mentioned, Eric, kind of talk about the ability to meet requirements from a compliance standpoint, and that's what this feature does, right? It actually creates a sandbox environment leveraging a pseudo network that you can create using a Linux appliance. Could we take it back a slide, please? And when we look at that pseudo appliance, it basically creates this isolated network that you see here by plugging into the production port group and masquerading those IP addresses and creating this isolated network that we can basically use instant VM recovery to restore in, and you can do any patches or updates or anything that you wouldn't really do in a production environment, things that are a bit risky. And it'll also run a full audit trail, which will do a checksum, ping test, and it'll also do a heartbeat test on the VMs to make sure they're fully compliant. Now, we're also complementing this demo by a Nimble engineer. So you'll hear more about that specific platform. But we've also co-engineered a solution that he'll expand a little bit more on. But from my perspective, how we integrate with Nimble is through the backup from storage snapshots. The biggest advantage here is the fact that this is reducing, if not completely taking away, the impact on the actual data stores. So today, when you create a snapshot, obviously it's living on the data store in the hypervisor platform. And what we've done with the integration with the storage snapshots is we're circumventing the virtual layer or the actual virtual data stores and creating a copy of the vSphere snapshot on the physical LUN, right? That's using the volume snapshots within Nimble. And what we're doing is we're basically isolating that snapshot and also the traffic from the snapshot to the backup repository, and you're not experiencing any impact. So what can you do now? You can pretty much run backups at any time during the day without taxing your systems. Also, those storage snapshots are consolidated once the backup is complete. In addition to that, if you're a Nimble user, you know that you can also create storage snapshots outside of the Veeam process. And what that does, it also gives us an opportunity to plug in to that snapshot and explore it for any individual items, such as guest files, application items, or even virtual disk items, or instant VM recovery. And earlier you heard me talking about a sandbox environment, and we can actually boot up backups or even replicas in there to verify that that there's something you can recover from in the event there's a disaster. But in addition to that, we've added the ability to mount up storage snapshots in that segregated environment as well. And when we look at the flow of the backup from storage snapshot, we still create a vSphere snapshot, and that vSphere snapshot is only being used to pull application-aware consistency to have a transactionally consistent backup, as well as change block tracking. And then we'll create a storage snapshot, and the storage snapshot is where the data is going to be processed from, and then we're going to write it to a repository. And when we look at this Explore for storage snapshots here, anything that you've created inside of your interface, right, your Nimble interface, we can actually point to it and use it as another recovery option. So we're not just recovering from your backups, but we're also recovering from the Nimble storage snapshots, right? So that's the integration there that we can plug into that interface and see those as another avenue of recoveries. And those recoveries are not just the entire virtual server, they're every granular item that you can think of, whether it be the entire virtual server, and we can also integrate with these databases and do granular restores from that perspective, guest files, so pretty much the entire gamut of restores that you would need from that virtual server. So with a quick recap on what we talked about today, we talked about how we can leverage Vazata to manage the entire project or a portion of your offsite copies or replicas and use them as a disaster recovery site. Highly recommend that, especially if you don't want to invest from a capital expenditure perspective. That can pretty much kind of help you from an operational expense perspective. A lot easier to get approved and to make sure that the project is fulfilled a lot quicker. Also, if you want to own the project, we talked about how you can leverage your own hardware and how you can use your own DR site. And lastly, how we integrate with Nimble for granular restores and also for a reduced impact on your data stores, right, on the hypervisor itself. So other than that, I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, please submit those in the GoToWebinar question box regarding Veeam. And at this time, I'm going to let my colleague Eric Magnus from Nimble take over and talk to us a little bit more about Nimble.
Cool. Thanks, Israel. Hi, everyone. This is Eric Magnus with Nimble Storage. I'm a systems engineer with Nimble located in DFW. And if any of you guys aren't familiar with Nimble, you know, we're a storage company, and we're actually much more than just hardware. We were founded almost 8-9 years ago, back in 2008, founded on the principle that storage should be easy to consume. And when you think about it, ease of consumption includes a lot of things. It includes ease of use. It includes ease of buying. It includes ease of growing. And more importantly, it includes ease of integrating with your entire environment. And to that end, we love to leverage our partners like Veeam and Vazata to really provide you a complete solution, because it's very rarely that someone's looking for just storage. Usually you're looking for some part of a big solution, so it might be servers and storage, probably it's storage and disaster recovery, and that's why we're here today. So let me get you started here. Cool. So, there we are. Sorry, a bit of technical difficulties here. So, with Nimble, and this should be something familiar to everyone on the line, it's no surprise we live in a very data-intensive world. And every single one of us uses applications that rely on data every single day. I mean, I think all of us have used them hundreds of times already today. And when we pull up an application, it might be a map, a Google Maps on your phone. It could be anything. It could be the Starbucks app. You want to get a Frappuccino. When we pull up that app, we expect its underlying data structures to be available instantly. And when it isn't, that's a problem. That's data disruption. And obviously, it's annoying when you're at Starbucks and your app won't work and you can't get your coffee. Imagine how it works with a business. And every business out there, you guys included, runs various critical applications that support the core business processes. So it could be an ERP package, could be an e-discovery package, could be the phones. It doesn't really matter what it is, but these are the applications that if these were to go down, or if these were to be inaccessible, that is, and can be a resume generating event for all of us here. These applications are incredibly important. And just like the applications on your phone, these applications rely on fast, predictable, reliable access to underlying data structures. And when that data delivery is broken, we call that the app data gap. So with the app data gap, the kind of amazing thing about it from our perspective at Nimble is that while at its core, it's a problem of applications getting data off of some sort of storage medium, most of the time, it's not a storage problem. And we know that, actually, we'll get into how we know this, but most of the time, the root cause lies in something entirely outside storage, whether that's best practices, whether that's the hypervisor, whether that's the network, could be any number of things. We can really just lump all these together as an increasingly complex infrastructure. And in order to tackle the app data gap and close that, ensure data delivery is fast, reliable, and predictable, you need to attack the entire stack. So how do you do that? Probably it might be useful to look how another industry is trying to close that gap. So let's kind of change gears completely here and talk about the automotive industry. So we all know what traffic is like today. If anyone drove this morning, you're fully aware of what traffic is like today. And it's obviously incredibly inefficient. Public transportation is frustrating. It's just a mess. So how are automotive companies attempting to close this app data gap of another sort? Well, here's how they're doing it, and here's what's on their roadmap. So the idea to fix the current traffic problems is to use three key technologies. First off, very, very, very rich telemetry, sensors all over the place. The self-driving car of the future has sensors everywhere, and a tremendous amount of data is being captured from every self-driving car on the road. Combine that with very, very advanced machine learning from the entire install base of every single self-driving car out there. So each car is reporting back about and learning from what its neighbors are doing, and that all contributes to a vast amount of data. Filter all of that through a cloud-based analytics system where you can actually get a handle around all this data and then make predictions and changes based on the environment. That's how Tesla, that's how Google, that's how Uber are going to close their app data gap in the traffic world. So how does Nimble close our app data gap? Because again, you have this applications that need fast and reliable access to underlying data structures. So just like Tesla, just like Google, just like Uber, we rely on very, very dense cross-stack telemetry. So every single Nimble array deployed out there, and there's tens of thousands worldwide, is gathering a tremendous amount of data. We'll get into that later. All of that data, all of these arrays, we leverage the power of learning, global machine learning. So every Nimble array learns from its neighbors, learns from every other array out there in the world, and then combine that with our own cloud-based predictive analytics. So we take all of this data and we start analyzing, we start correlating, we start looking for issues and proactively fixing them before you even knew you had an issue. And with that, we call that our InfoSight platform. So the Nimble storage platform consists of a couple key technologies. First, and perhaps most importantly, is InfoSight. That is our predictive analytics platform. That's how we close that app data gap. Along with InfoSight, we have our multi-cloud flash fabric, which consists of our flash-based storage arrays, our converged architectures with HP, with Cisco, and our multi-cloud storage platforms. Together, you have the Nimble Predictive Cloud Platform. First, I want to kind of go into InfoSight in a little bit more detail, just so you can see how truly powerful it is and why it is such a big deal. So, with InfoSight, let's kind of recap this again, because this is a pretty critical point here. Over half of the problems you have in infrastructure that involve servers talking to storage, over half of those data delivery problems are happening outside of storage. And we know this, as you could probably guess, from InfoSight. This is data we've gathered from our installed base. And as you can see, storage is only the problem less than half the time. The rest of the time, it's everything else. So with InfoSight, here's how we close that. So every single Nimble array ever deployed contains a vast amount of sensors that have been engineered into the Nimble OS when we built the platform. And we're collecting data on every part of the stack. So we're collecting data about the array itself, about the physical operating environment of the array, temperatures, fan speeds, etc., drive status. We're collecting data about your volumes, about the health of your actual data, whether they're being snapshotted, whether you're running out of space, whether you will run out of space. We're collecting data about the network, the transport layer, whether it's fiber channel or iSCSI. And we're collecting data about VMware, about the hypervisor. So again, anything that's plugged into the array is something that we can gather data on. So we're ingesting a tremendous amount of data from every install Nimble. It's around 70 million data points per array per day. And to put that into perspective, imagine, if you will, that each data point out there, imagine it represents a star. We're collecting literally galaxy-sized chunks of data every 4 hours. Again, that's where you get the true power of analytics. It's only by gathering this data that you can start really making meaningful decisions based on it. That is, kind of the textbook definition of big data. And that's how we do it at Nimble. So here's what InfoSight gives you. And if you talk to any Nimble customer, this is very, 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 they'll vouch for this. First off, one statistic that we're very proud of at Nimble is through InfoSight, the vast majority of our support tickets are automatically opened and automatically closed. So if we see an issue, if we recognize it as something based on our deep analytics, based on the machine learning, we'll automatically open up a ticket for that issue. It could be a storage issue. It could be a VMware issue. It could be a fiber channel issue. It doesn't really matter. We'll open up a ticket for that. We'll send you that ticket. We'll send you a fix for that issue. And if we see that it's been resolved, we'll just close it out. Along with that, our measured uptime is 6 nines. In fact, it's over 6 nines. It's 6 nines and a 7 currently. And we're not achieving that uptime, which is very, very impressive when you think about it. That's less than 30 seconds of unplanned downtime a year. We're not achieving that by throwing a whole bunch of hardware at the problem. Every Nimble array, of course, is fully fault tolerant. There's no single point of failure. There's redundant power supplies, the drives are rated, etc. But it's really through InfoSight that we can achieve that uptime by detecting an issue that might affect one customer and then proactively and immediately inoculating every other customer who might hit that same issue. That's how you achieve true uptime. And along with that, remember I mentioned that most app data gap, most data delivery issues are outside of storage. Over half of the cases we solve, the root cause lives entirely outside the Nimble array. And because of that, people just love to call our support for problems across the entire stack, and we're happy to help with that. Through InfoSight, Nimble doesn't have any Tier 1 support people on staff. All we have are Level 3 support engineers who have access to every bit of data about your array since the day it was turned on. It makes resolving complex cross-stack issues really quick and efficient. So, along with InfoSight, we of course have our multi-cloud flash fabric. And this would really include, and that's again why we're all here today, this would include our integrations with our technology partners like Veeam and Vazata. So let me kind of get into some of the details here about our Veeam integration, which is something that we're tremendously proud of. If you saw a Venn diagram, imagine of Veeam customers and Nimble customers, it would be pretty close to a perfect circle. The two complement each other very, very well. So one fantastic feature when you do integrate Veeam with Nimble is that it removes all of the overhead from the hypervisor when it comes to backing up your VMs. All of the I/O, all of the snapshotting is offloaded to the Nimble array. And Nimble snapshots are incredibly efficient. The only limitations on Nimble snapshots are 10,000 snapshots per volume and 150,000 snapshots per array. So that's really not really limitations at all. Along with that, using the Veeam Explorer, you can get very granular and browse and recover files individually from any one of those 150,000 snapshots. So if you need to pull out a file from the snapshot from 3 Tuesdays ago at 9:25 a.m., you can do that, and you could do that very, very quickly with just a couple of clicks. No need to bring tape online, no need to browse your file share to find that. All that data is right there at your fingertips. Another really fantastic part of the Veeam and Nimble integration is when you use Veeam's Sure Backup features and Sure Verify, when you want to spin up a VM in your DR environment, you're spinning it up on a Nimble array. Imagine how quick and powerful that would be. Really it's all about reducing that RTO and RPO. If you can get your data online quicker and your recovery window is that much tighter, it makes that app data gap even further away. Another great part of the Veeam and Nimble integration is, I know Israel talked about this earlier, you guys are sure all familiar with that 3-2-1 backup rule. So, you want to have, this is best practice in the backup world, you want to have 3 copies of your data on at least 2 different formats and at least one of them off-site, 3-2-1. And many of our customers leverage things like Nimble snapshots for at least one of those, and they'll leverage one of our partners like Vazata for that off-site. It's really a no-brainer. So you can very, very cost-effectively combine Nimble and Veeam with Vazata for the off-site cloud portion, because why not make the cloud that off-site? Why keep your own data center around when Vazata knows how to do this forwards and backwards? It makes a lot more sense. And this is a very, very common and popular way to achieve really true backup and business continuity protection for your business. And with that, it is a complete solution, which we find is what people are looking for. And